In Matthew's book, Jesus said, go into all the land, take the word, share it, teach it, preach to every man. Just do it.
Hello, this is Dr. Gregg Mays with Your Word Wednesday. Today, I want to follow through on a promise I've made. I use the air quotes for those of you who are only listening on the podcast. But for a promise I made a few days ago, I did a TikTok where I talked about black mold and cancer and why we get rid of those, and therefore why God does some of the things that he does. And I said I was going to expound on this in a full podcast episode. So here that is. Just to give a little background for those of you who did not see that, I woke up the other day and I had this thought on my mind. You know, people get so upset when they read in the Bible where God has wiped out an entire nation of people. And they get indignant and they say things like, well, what kind of a God would do that? And they get very upset. Now, if we don't know better, we would justify that. But here's what I want to come to you with. If you had black mold in your house, you would not continue to live there with that black mold. You would call an expert. You would have that person come and remove all of that black mold. And then you would have it tested. You would make sure that there were no more spores. Now, why would you do that? Because you know that if you allow even just a little bit of that black mold to stay, that it will begin to fester and grow again. And black mold, when we inhale it, it is deadly to our bodies. We cannot live in an environment with black mold. So you will get rid of that at all costs. I also gave the example of cancer. And I know cancer is a very serious disease. So that I am not speaking about cancer in any small way. But we understand that if a cancerous cell is allowed to grow uninhibited, that it will eventually kill the host. If that cancer is not eliminated, whether through medicine or through a miracle, if that cancer is not eradicated from the body, the host will die. You see, we understand that in a medical sense, cancer. We understand that in a health sense, black mold. But where we get tripped up is we don't have the mind of God when it comes to people. You see, this is a very unpopular thing that I'm about to say, but I have to say it because I choose to listen to God and to allow him to speak in and through me. The reason why God was annihilating and wiping out all of those people was because those people were going to corrupt the Israelites. He knew that if the Israelites intermingled with those people, that they would lead the Israelites astray. But we serve a loving God. Even though God told the Israelites to completely destroy all the people, the Israelites did not. And as a result, what happened? They were corrupted. Not only were they corrupted, they turned away from God. And we read in the book of Isaiah, which is a book that I'm going through right now, we read in the book of Isaiah how God had allowed his people to be taken, to be exiled from the promised land, Jerusalem, Judea, that area, because of their disobedience. And so I want us to understand, we don't always understand who God is and why he does and says what he does. In fact, without the benefit of the Holy Spirit, we have no idea why God does what he does. But I want to put a couple things in your heart. Number one, and this is one that is on me, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. I also have been on a Hebrews 11:6 lately, and I have a business partner, and she may be listening to this or watching this, and she's probably shaking her head, but she understands my heart and my passion for God the Father. And Hebrews 11:6 tells us that, and without faith, it is impossible to please God. For anyone who comes to him must first believe that he exists and that he will reward those who earnestly or diligently seek him. You see, we must seek God first. And that may mean eliminating certain things from our lives. I want to go and I want to read to you Hebrews 12. Now, I wanted to just read 12:1, but I think I'm going to take it all the way down to verse 3. Hebrews 12:1. It says, now it is coming off of this, do we call it the Hall of Faith? Those of us who read and kind of been in Hebrews chapter 11, we call it the Hall of Faith. There's so many people that have shown faith. Watch this. So the writer says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. I love that passage, because as we do what God has called us to do, as we call out those things that run contrary to God, isn't that what we're taught in the Bible? That we are to cast down those high things, everything that exalts itself against the knowledge of Christ. Aren't we supposed to speak against that? Yes, but here's the thing. We have to be careful, because when the Bible tells us to speak against those things, it tells us to do it in gentleness and in love. You see, if we are going to allow God to eliminate the black mold, if we are going to allow God to eliminate the cancer, well, when he uses us, we must be strictly obedient to him. And that's very difficult to do when we start putting our thoughts, our opinions, our culture, what we would do. Is very difficult. That's why it's so important to stay connected with God the Father, to stay connected with mature Christians, those people who understand and diligently seek after the heart of God. You know, the Bible teaches us about fruits of the Spirit. There's just so much there that we need to be following. But everything we do must be done in love. Everything. So I'm looking to you, Christians. And can I narrow this down a little bit? I am talking about Christians around the world, but my heart is for Christians right here in America. We're the ones who we say that we're this great beacon of hope, this great light. But the reality is, the beacon of hope, the great light, well, that's Jesus Christ. And we need to be following him and allow him to get rid of the black mold and the cancer. Our job, we must be praying praying for our country, praying for the world, praying for our leaders. But let's be a people who helps others understand who God is and why God does what he does. Because at the end of the day, the reason why God does everything that he does is so that you may have a right relationship with him and one day spend eternity with him in heaven. I pray that this is a blessing for you. And remember, stay strong.
So what you waiting for? Someone to feel the pain some more? Cause you ain't share the love, the grace you found within the Father's care. To share the love of God is more than just a simple job. It's Christ speaking the off a Holy Spirit law. Share it.